to rock star George Michael.
Singer Shirley Murdoch on why she hates being compared to Janet Jackson.
And part one of our series, The Perfect Face. Today, how to hide your flaws with concealers and foundation.
Plus a beauty queen who claims heavyweight champ Mike Tyson sexually assaulted her.
An exciting recipe for easy, spectacular, and delicious souffle.
And it's all coming up next.
Here they are, your hosts, Linda Dano and Jerry Penacoli.
Welcome to Attitudes. I like your outfit.
Thank you. I like yours.
Yeah,
they're dressing us alike
like
now.
Twins today. Huh?
I know, we do. Yeah.
We've got a good show for you today. We really do. We have a former beauty queen who is going to tell us some real interesting things about Mike Tyson. She claims that Mike Tyson sexually assaulted her, and she's asking for $100 million in damages.
Why not? 100 million, 500 million? Why not? What does it mean? You're right. And we're going to have a four-part series this week, so ladies, pay attention, on the perfect face. Oh. I'm looking at you, but you already have.
No, and so do you.
Please.
Oh, yeah.
So today we're going to talk about concealers and foundations, and you don't have to listen to that.
Okay, I won't. I'll close my eyes.
Okay. Most people remember our first guest as Keith Partridge. After dodging the spotlight for over a decade, he's back with the release of his new album, David Cassidy. Please give a warm welcome to David Cassidy. Been missed.
Thank you very, very much. I'll give you that fin I told you about. Yeah.
Really. Now, as you can tell from the audience, I mean, in the 70s, you were the biggest thing going. I know. Well, you know, now you're 41 now, and I'm 48, and I watch The Partridge Family every week.
Right.
And you were who we watched it for, really.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it was over, and we didn't see David Cassidy after that. Where have you been?
I've been staying at her house.
Lucky her.
I've been hanging around the bus stops, making sure they're all running on time. Very difficult question to answer because I have spent quite a lot of time in the theater. And I took myself, I think people's perception of me, quite rightly so, is from television, and I guess I had probably the most impact of all the work I did from playing Keith on Partridge Family.
Right.
That show had such a tremendous impact. It's as a result of that I lost my own identity.
Did you?
Yeah, very much so. And I worked 18 hours a day, and I found myself at 25 saying, you know, this has been going on now for 5 or 6 years, and when you're on the back of bubblegum cards and comic books and lunchboxes and pillowcases and all that stuff.
You can't get away from yourself.
It's kind of hard to take yourself really seriously.
Yeah.
And I really was a serious actor at one point. And being a musician is something that I loved doing, and I loved playing when I was in high school and a teenager growing up, but I never actually thought I'd get a chance. I had no idea what was going to happen to me. So it was a very difficult, as great as it was to be that successful, it was a very difficult pill for me to swallow. And I found it difficult, I guess, being as young as I was, to be able to cope with people having that almost godlike sort of like hero worship, and not feeling really worthy, not feeling like I deserved that kind of adulation. I'm just a guy. This is just what I do. I love the fact that people loved that I did it, but I'm not sure I really wanted them to love me that much, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to be successful. I grew up thinking, well, if you're good at what you do and you work really hard, someday you're going to become successful. And it just happened for me so quickly and so young. I wasn't prepared for it.
Now you've just come out, or this last year, with a new album,
Right.
David Cassidy.
Right.
Was there a lot of difficulties in making an album? I mean, it's sort of in a way like starting all over again.
Well, it's very much like starting over. For me, being away for so long, I tried, just chronologically, I did a world tour where I played stadiums and things, and there was a lot of sensationalism about it that I was retiring, and I did actually retire. At the ripe age of 25, and I was burned emotionally. I had no idea of really what I wanted to do. I was wealthy and I was successful, and I couldn't walk down the street without people. It embarrassed me being so famous. I'm not apologizing for it. I feel real lucky. I feel really blessed. But it wasn't the way I wanted it. I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be looked at as a serious actor, and I got a chance to make records, and I became very successful. And I love the fact, during the period of time, people always have a misconception now when I talk about it, like I'm talking about it was a bitter, bad experience. It was great. You have no idea how much it means to me now to get I used to be able to get as close as there would be maybe a 10, 15-foot wire mesh between the audiences that I would play in the stadiums or arenas and security guards. And I get to see those faces and see what it was like. All the rest of the time I was working on the set or making records, and I would go out and tour. That was the most joy I had in that experience, because I really got it from the people. Now when people come up to me and say, I just want to tell you, you had such an impact on my life, it really means a lot to me. I get a lot from it.
Now, you also, in that whole mix when you were a kid, had a couple of families going. You had Shirley Jones, who married your dad, Jack Cassidy, and then Shirley got a divorce from your dad. And
I had my real mother, who I was
and
with.
your real mom.
Right.
Was it tough for you? I mean, did you have one or several you could go to as a role model?
Well, I would have to say it was very difficult, not because my father and I had a difficult relationship. I loved him and idolized him and worshipped him as most boys do with their fathers. And my dad was an extraordinarily charismatic, artistic, vulnerable, volatile, brilliant guy. He was, some say that he was a genius, and in a lot of ways trying to live up to all of what he was as a person, as a human being, in terms of what the public's perception of him and the private sector's perception of him. Bring him into a room at a party, and he's the party. I felt very intimidated by my dad, and he left when I was a kid. So it was really pretty difficult for me just on that. When I became really successful and famous, my dad had been struggling in the business for 30 years and wasn't. He was known in New York on the theater, but no one knew him outside of New York, really. I became really much more successful and more famous than he was at an early age, and I almost was embarrassed.
Yeah, that's tough.
To
for
be
both
that
of you,
successful.
that's tough.
Real tough for him.
I'm going into the audience. You can just keep talking.
You are?
Yeah, because
What is
they're
this, my
dying
show
to
now?
ask you
Oh, good.
things.
Welcome.
And,
I'm David Cassidy.
And
I'll be your host for the next hour.
Here?
So, Linda.
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you doing with that microphone?
Yeah, just a minute. Just a minute, David. Yeah, stand up. Question.
Yes, your former co-star, Danny Bonaducci, he's been in the news recently with his trouble.
Boy, hasn't he, though.
He has, with drugs and arrest, and he attributes most of his problems to being a child star.
To me.
I was wondering how being a child star has affected you.
Well, actually, I never really was a child star. I don't know. I never worked before I was out of high school, and I was 18 when I started professionally in New York here. I did a Broadway show. George Abbott, the legendary director, hired me in my first job, and I went from the day that show closed out to Los Angeles to do a screen test. I was 18, and I started working like that.
Now, Danny is going to be working with you on tour, is he not?
Yeah, I'm glad you just raised that, because a lot of people have been talking to me about him, and let me give you a little insight. I know him from the time he was 10 years old, and being 19 or so, I was a lot older and had a lot more savvy, but I recognized a really good, very sensitive, very gifted human being. He was didn't have the easiest childhood being on that show, and he's, I think, always looked up to me as a big brother. I think that I have remained one of the few influences in his life that has been positive and have stayed by him and haven't abandoned him because it's not really fashionable to know him.
Yeah.
I sincerely believe in his talent. I think he's an extraordinarily funny guy. I think he's also used very poor judgment in a lot of the responsibility about being a celebrity, especially being a kid growing up. Not to say I'm excusing him for what he did, but he's used poor judgment in taking Danny Bonaduce out into places that Danny Bonaduce shouldn't go.
David?
Much the same, and it's very funny to say this now, but I really respect Paul Rubens, who is Pee Wee Herman, is a very talented guy who used extraordinarily poor judgment being who he was. And I don't know if he'll ever be forgiven. Danny, of course, didn't commit that kind of a sin.
No, he didn't.
He didn't hurt anybody. Danny's just gotten in some trouble. Some of it wasn't really his fault, but I believe in his talent, and I always have, and I've been trying to, I guess, urge him to go out and do stand-up, and I'm going to go out on tour starting September 14th in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I start my tour. It's my first time in 15 years. Danny's going to do a half an hour, 45 minutes of stand-up.
Good for you.
He's, you know, at all times in our lives, we all need a helping hand sometimes, and I believe in him. I don't think he's going to let me down. If he does, I'll kick his ass.
No. I hope he's listening right now.
I think he's a very talented guy, and I think that a lot of people want him to win, not only myself, and I think that you'll see. He's got an article in Esquire that he wrote this month that's hysterical, and if I can be of some help to him now, I'll feel good about it, and I know that he won't disappoint me, at least creatively, and I hope he doesn't disappoint you.
David,
Come and see us.
We think it's wonderful that you're back. Good luck with your tour, with the album.
Thank you.
Everybody, David
Thank you.
Cassidy. Gary.